started 2006, I see, is the first time you ever played live poker, and then it didn't look like you played too much. Like you played a little bit there. Were you playing online and grinding a lot then, or is that just...
me here? Okay. I started playing, I think it was 2004 actually, and I just realized how much time has gone by recently.
Right.
So I've played poker for longer than I thought, actually, because I kept saying to everybody 10 years, 10 years, and I'm like, oh my God, it's been way over 10 years now. What was my first score? Was it Turning Stone?
Yes, you got 13th for $800, 800 some in a $200 tournament in 2006, and then looks like you played only a few tournaments between 2006 and 2010. But you were grinding a lot online. You were Supernova Elite, and didn't you put a lot of volume online?
Yeah, so I started playing cash games. I mean, I started poker just playing like a $20 home game. I had no idea what poker was, and then that night, yeah, I think we played for like $20 or something. And I ended up playing like the whole night, becoming obsessed like instantly. And I think within maybe the next month, I had made a trip. It was like a 3-hour drive to Turning Stone to play. And I had like $200, drove down there, and they actually didn't even have no limit. They only had limit hold'em. And I still remember, like, I got ace king, and anyways, ended up losing all my money. And just started playing cash games like 1-2 for a good, I guess, year. Like the first summer off of university, grinded at this place in Fort Erie. Anyways, so I played cash for a long time, and then I played like heads up, sit and goes, some tournaments online, and then only recently have I really shifted my focus to live tournaments. I don't know how many years ago it is now. It was like 2012 or 11. I mean, it's funny because I remember even on New Year's Eve, I was like ready to go for January 1st. And I had gone to like a friend's house for a party, and I was like, I'm going to get Supernova Elite this year. And then definitely like a handful of guys there were like, you're insane. Like, you're not going to do that. And all I had was, I think, a $10,000 or $15,000 bankroll. And I was starting at 50 cents a dollar. And then I think, I was just so motivated, played, I don't know, whatever it was, 8 or 10 hours a day. And then I moved up to 1-2 in March and ended up getting like over Supernova Elite that year. But yeah, that was fun. That was definitely the moment when I, started not only making more, but definitely taking poker just more seriously and treating it more of a job as a hobby.
What changed then for you? Was that a turning point when you won the ladies event for a bracelet? Because I see you had a score, like a 21K score. It looks like, actually you really didn't play any for like years. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, there's just a first place, like not, no other score, but boom, first for a bracelet. You win the women's event, championship event for $173,000. Did that kind of put you into, wow, this is fun, or I should maybe look into doing this more seriously? Or were you already playing more tournaments then?
That was when I was still grinding cash. And then I just liked the experience of going to the World Series. I think I always did from the time I was like 22 is, go to Vegas for the World Series, play the ladies event, tried to play the main event. Like I can still so vividly remember playing satellites to the main event at the Rio, and like I direct bubbled once, and I have cried very few times from poker, but that was one time I cried. I hadn't played the main event yet and did that. But the summer that I won that event, I mean, there's no denying that when you win a poker tournament, it just like gives you get the tournament bug. Like it's a real thing. And I think you'll see it a lot with any cash game player, poker player who doesn't really play tournaments. If they get success, all of a sudden they're like, this was fun. So I think at that point, I realized not necessarily like, okay, now I want to switch and just play tournaments, but there was an excitement that you don't get from cash games.
And then all of a sudden you just come back, win another bracelet in June 16, you take first.
That's when I really got started, actually. It was that win.
Okay.
That win was in the summer. And I remember even that summer I was grinding 510 at Bellagio. Like, I don't know, maybe had like a reasonable bankroll, but not really. I didn't have a bankroll to play tournaments at that time. And I wasn't really interested in selling. I knew that, I was doing pretty well at cash games and just kind of stuck with that. And I remember grinding that summer and someone saying to me, like, that's a really good tournament. You should play that one. I said, okay. So I picked a few tournaments and played that. And then from that win, I had a lot more flexibility and freedom to be able to, play tournaments more. And I didn't feel that pressure to like grind it out every day. And then I think it was that December I went to EPT Prague. And then from there, I like got going, and I had a deep run in, I think it was the Monte Carlo main, EPT Monte Carlo main. I say deep run, it was like 50th. But at the time, like when you make day 4 of a poker tournament or day, whatever it was, like it felt huge. It was so exciting. And then from there, just having like the financial freedom to play tournaments, I think kind of allowed me to do that, and just, you know, having a love of travel as well. And just realizing that it not necessarily feels more like a hobby, but it feels less business-like than sitting behind a computer, you know, going to live tournaments.
You were Jennifer Harmon, or you looked up to or used to watch Poker After Dark? That kind of got you really intrigued in poker? Is that correct?
Well, it's interesting. Somebody said, I've read that about myself too.
Okay, that's we got to clear it up. I got to make sure I'm not just getting random info, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if somebody necessarily misquoted, but what I was saying, how I feel about that is when I grew up playing poker and then watched her on Poker After Dark, to me, it felt as if she belonged there. And I thought, like, kind of looked up to her in the sense that, like, she seemed like a boss in poker, you know? Yeah. And seeing a female in that way, I think she had the respect of everybody around her. And she's just somebody, like, especially a female in poker, who I think is easy for other women to kind of look up to, or to be like, oh, yeah, look how comfortable she is and look how respected she is. Why shouldn't I be that way too? Your
parents, are they supportive and family love that you play poker? Was that a hard transition? Is that something they look forward to when you say, hey mom, I'm going to be on TV? Or, you know, how do they like that?
Well, I think when the first year or two, it was a little bit of a rough topic. And I remember one of my first deep runs, it was like the Sunday Million. I had won a $3 rebuy seat into the 215. And then I was playing poker that day at my parents' house, and I was like, look, like this tournament is, I think at the time it was probably a few $100,000 to win, I think. Yeah. I was like, I can win this. And then I was in the money, and I was like, I've made this much. I ended up finishing, I think, like 7th or 8th for like 30K. But I think that's when my mom and dad were like, whoa, is this real? And they're like, are you actually going to get the cash? And then I got a check, and the check came in the mail, and it's like, this is interesting.
Right. And that's funny, right? Because it almost does seem make believe. If you're looking outside, you think all these game shows or, you know, fake stuff and slots or things, and you get these, like, it sounds make believe. So to actually see their daughter actually do it and then actually get paid, and then they're actually still wondering if you're going to get paid is
exactly. And then I definitely had times where I was like, okay, I'm going to this casino to play poker, and then I ended up like staying in a hotel room and not coming home the next day, and my mom's like, where are you? What's happening? But I think once I started playing live poker and there's updates and poker news, and, you know, my parents previously like came to some poker trips, and I think they got to see the whole venue and see how it's run, and then realize, like, even if I'm traveling to, you know, Brazil or wherever I might be going, it's pretty safe if I'm going to a poker tournament. And they understand it's like a real thing, and they're really supportive now. I think my mom is probably like the biggest, you know, poker news fan there is. She's constantly refreshing updates, and she's, you know, railing me, railing Alex.
Have you ever had a moment where you were like, poker is not for me? I think you mentioned you were in a downswing either earlier this year or somewhere. Was that maybe some period of that where you just were like, I don't know, this is tough? Or
I think I'm assuming every poker player sort of goes through a moment of like, what am I doing? Maybe poker isn't for me, but maybe like, why can't I get, you know, where I want to be? Why can't I run good in that 100K? Why is this happening? I really, really loved poker. And I think that actually something I didn't mention when you said getting the sponsorship, I remember when I first started going to poker events and I was like a nobody, and just feeling like, I think like, you know, feeling like I had a future in poker, and kind of feeling like I don't know how to explain it, but like I knew that this was for me, if that makes sense. So I would say more than anything, the moments are like that I like what I'm doing and that it feels good to me. But yeah, definitely through the hard moments and hard days, I've definitely have had little, you know, tough times of like, you know, what am I doing? You know, will the downswing ever end? Will I ever win at poker again? Am I terrible? Like, you know, all of those thoughts.